Hey there, it's Evan Nathaniel Grimm, and welcome to my predictions for December 2024. Now, first, I'm going to go through my world predictions, and then I'm going to dive into what each zodiac sign can expect in this month. So, I'm going to share my screen, and we'll look on at just the midpoint of December for now. But before I walk through each day of the month and all the themes, I just want to summarize what we're going to see in December. So essentially in December, the way that goods flow through society is changing, and the way that ideas flow through society and in our own minds is changing as well. There are a number of reasons for that, which I'll explain. Now, also, we only have one planet, apart from the sun and moon, changing signs in December. This, combined with the retrogrades, suggests a slowdown and a slowing of the pace. Now, with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, and also Mercury being in Sagittarius for 2 months technically, and opposing Jupiter, squaring Saturn, there could be many protracted legal challenges that make headlines, but also perspectives are changing on health, healthcare. People are also watching out for the bird flu. I also see travel looking a little bit more difficult this month. There could be some travel issues, and airline drama that could be dominating the news, but also some restructuring going on with even like car companies and auto companies, I should say. And this month, in terms of the dominant transits, it's really defined by Mars retrograde opposing Pluto throughout the month, Mercury retrograde again squaring Saturn, opposing Jupiter. We will have the Venus-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius. The fixed star Antares will be activated. Neptune and Chiron will station direct, and Jupiter will square Saturn yet again. So those transits would suggest, first of all, with the Mars-Pluto opposition, that there is a continual fight for dominance and domination in many different layers of society. So between individuals, between companies, between governments, and so on. And we are seeing with Mars opposite Pluto the specter of war, especially because Pluto is opposing the World War II Pluto, which I've highlighted across many videos over the years. The Mercury retrograde squaring Saturn is challenging us to refine and rethink our philosophy, our beliefs, our even our faith. It's testing people's faith. It is also maybe causing some people to either turn towards traditional faith-based systems or to trend away from those things. With Mercury retrograde opposing Jupiter, a lot of people are just reflecting on like what they believe, where they want to travel. Again, maybe their faith, but also how they take in information and media. So also with the Venus Pluto conjunction in Aquarius, I think we will see all kinds of financial changes with like social media platforms, tech companies. We will also see companies investing in AI, automation, and technology in different ways. Um, with Antares activated on the Sag new moon December 1st, again, we are seeing the possibility of a global conflict escalating because Antares has a lot to do with the Crusades. It has a sort of warring attitude. And across many conflicts in recent human history, Antares or Aldebaran have been activated. With Neptune stationing direct, there are a lot of movements within the healthcare space, also in the way that maybe nations manage health and healthcare. You're seeing that in the US right now with the Trump administration starting to sort of make plans to basically install different types of health experts, into those agencies. With Chiron stationing direct, I think people are learning a lot more about what they need in order to heal themselves on many levels. And then the Jupiter Saturn square, this is a rehash of a square that we've actually seen before this year. So I'm going to walk you through that really quick. So I'm going to point out when the last time Jupiter squared Saturn was. So it was technically on August 19th of this year. So I'm showing you the chart right here. Mars was also involved. And what did we see at this time? We saw a lot of transportation issues, actually. We saw some accidents, but There's also with Jupiter square Saturn this idea of like legal challenges and also sort of an evolution of our ideas and ideals since 2020, because Jupiter and Saturn formed a conjunction in December 2020. So this square is a challenge to our sort of, the beliefs that we held at that time. So the next square is technically exactly on Christmas Eve, December 24th of this year. So that square happening again with Mercury now involved in Sag on the opposite side of Jupiter is, I think, even more so testing our, again, ideals, our faith, our perspectives, but also exposing maybe like where the media deceives people or just is sort of calling people to or compelling them to reevaluate their media sources. Maybe some people no longer want to follow either alternative media or mainstream media. That's up to you. But a lot of people are starting to also shake up, I think, their perspective on health and healthcare and either what they can do in order to be healthy versus what they can rely on agencies to do for them. So there's a lot going on there, but also, again, protracted legal battles. We're also going to see the topic of immigration continue to play a role. So in the United States, obviously, that's kind of front and center in the political space. And the Trump administration is talking about how to manage immigration. And so, that's going to be in the news a lot. And even with these squares, I think we will see a lot of scrutiny of his cabinet picks, which I'll talk about. But now let's go on to the key ingresses in the month. We will have Venus entering Aquarius December 6th, which is going to sort of change the way we relate and connect to people. Venus in Capricorn, which is where we kind of start the month, is going to show a bit more of a focus on, long-term committed relationship. It's focusing on relationships that are dependable, reliable, and focusing on sort of like fulfilling our promises to another partner. But like as Venus goes into Aquarius, it's going to help us kind of cross-pollinate ideas, collaborate, cohere within communities a little bit more, but also focus on technology, social media. What do we do? What does like the US do about TikTok? Things like that will also play a role. But, obviously, like I said, December is very much defined by the retrogrades. I mean, we're wrestling with the retrogrades. So obviously there are things happening, but on a personal level, which I'll talk about in the horoscope section, there is a lot of, again, there's a slowness, there's a reflectiveness, there's an introspection with Mercury and Sag. It's like taking a step back and saying, okay, what do I think about the world? What is my place in the world? What do I want to, what's my vision for the future? And again, like, yeah, how do I see the world? And how does that affect the things I want to do with my life? Mars retrograde is going to definitely, sort of show all of us how to set better boundaries and how to prioritize where we deploy our energy because Mars is our sort of battery power in our engine. And when it retrogrades, it starts to sputter, unless you have Mars retrograde in your birth chart. But Mars retrograde in Leo is definitely going to, it's going to show us, I think, well, in the healthcare space, different ways to deal with cardiovascular issues, actually, because Leo is all about the heart. But Leo is also our creative passions. I think the Mars retrograde in Leo could be an opportunity to like actually create more space in our lives for those joyful activities. But generally, Mars retrograde is a time that is, that has to be like we have to manage our energy more efficiently during Mars retrograde. Like we can become exhausted more easily, we can burn out, we can feel like we just want to take a break. So, it's the end of the year. Insofar as you're able to, I'd recommend taking things a little bit slower. Jupiter retrograde, we're reflecting on, again, like our beliefs, the way we absorb information, our informational sources, like are they valid or not? Uranus retrograde, continuing to reflect on the reinvention of our values. So there's a lot of retrogrades this month and not a lot of changes in the sky. Like I said, Venus is the only planet that is actually changing signs in December. apart from, again, the sun and the moon, but those are luminaries, not planets. So December doesn't really have the feeling of anything new per se. I mean, it's not necessarily that there's nothing, again, being introduced, but I feel like we're better off, again, just kind of rethinking and revisiting things that have already occurred in our year so that we can strategize for the upcoming year more effectively. Now, in terms of the retrogrades, the timing of the retrogrades, and the direct motions of the planets, Mars retrogrades December 6th. Neptune stations direct the next day, December 7th. Mercury stations direct, meaning things will, well, decision-making processes will improve after December 15th there. Mercury moves direct December 15th. And then Chiron stations direct at the very end of the year, December 29th. So what I would just highlight there is it's interesting that Mars stations retrograde the day before Neptune stations direct. That tells me that there is something maybe changing in the healthcare space. I don't know if it's like reports of like increased cardiac or cardiovascular incidents that were kind of suspicious, or if we just focus on a new way to manage health, like because obviously, well, especially in the US, there's a lot of toxins in the environment, but also with Neptune stationing direct, I wonder if there's like I don't know if it's like a flooding related event, or if it's, yeah, some kind of water related disaster. But as Neptune stations direct, it does gain a lot of power. So I think that like rain, sleet, and snow will obviously be a big factor, especially in the northern US. But yeah, I mean, the Mars retrograde is very tiring for most people, and Neptune stationing direct is highlighting an area of our lives where we need to take better care of our spiritual and mental health, where we need to manage any, unhealthy habits or something like that too. So again, I know that not everybody has the luxury of just like taking a bunch of time off. But in insofar as you can, you just want to change your cadence in December. And specifically, you want to focus on the mantra that less is more. Less is more in December. This is not the month to scale up a bunch of new projects. I'm not saying that people have to put their life on pause, but relative to other months in 2024, this is the slowest. And, if you downloaded my 2024 horoscopes last year, you already knew this. And this is actually a reminder to download my 2025 horoscopes, which also map out the upcoming year month by month, new moon and full moon, every new and full moon next year. But also, it just gives you a timeline of when you'll have more versus less momentum. So now we're going to go through the noteworthy transits, and this is going to be. I'll actually show you what's happening, in those transits on the chart here. So the first transit, I'm going to go chronologically, but I'm going to start with the transit that actually is occurring throughout the month. This is Mars opposing Pluto. Mars opposing Pluto. This has been happening for a couple months now. But this opposition is dragging on for an abnormally long time because Mars is about to station retrograde in this opposition. So Mars opposite Pluto makes people generally more vengeful, more bitter, and people are more likely to hold grudges against each other. Yeah, to not surrender, to not let go. And we're seeing this play out between, Russia, NATO, Ukraine. We're seeing this play out in the Middle East. We're seeing on a personal level, you may have even experienced like family drama where like a sibling doesn't want to let something go. So by watching this video, though, you can manifest the higher expression of this transit, which is to stand up for the underdog, fight for what you believe in, like a cause, and also to be relentless and focus on things that are actually positive for you, though. Because Mars opposite Pluto in the sort of negative sense can cause frustration to fester within us. But in a positive sense, it can make someone fiercely dedicated to, let's say, their fitness regimen or to their business, etc. Now, what you also want to avoid is arguing over assets, possessions, insofar, again, as that applies to you. But I think a lot of people who, again, aren't watching these types of forecasts. They're just like, whatever about the energy. They don't really want to be discerning about it. A lot of people are going to get mired in these sort of petty fights over like who owns the dresser, who owns, who gets to keep this or that, or within families after the election, there's a lot of drama within families, especially around Thanksgiving coming up. And I wonder if there's like a lot of arguments over possessions for whatever reason that are fueled by these resentments. So avoid resentment, obviously, always avoid resentment. But right now, you're probably tempted a little bit. You're probably tempted by certain people in your life to take the bait, as it were. Like someone may say something to you that you don't like, someone may do something you don't like. With Mars opposite Pluto, there's a temptation to dig your heels and actually sort of meet them at their level of like a lower frequency. Some people can also develop obsessions, that where they're kind of driven by their desires to sort of an unhealthy degree. So definitely avoid that. But anyways, that's going to continue throughout the month. And Mars in Leo, though, is ideally motivated to be seen for something, validated for something. It's very prideful about what it can do. And then Pluto in Aquarius is, more of a collective transit. And it's showing that we are, as a society, looking for new ways to build power, essentially, because Pluto has left Capricorn. So, people are looking to themselves and their local communities to lift each other up. And because of that, you're going to see, all sorts of calls in the collective to create more flat organizations, governments that are more transparent and less hierarchical, companies that fit that bill, communities that are more ecumenical. There's also, with Mars and Leo opposing Pluto, there is a clash there, though, of like people wanting to stand out in these groups to kind of like a toxic degree. So if you're participating in communities right now, if you're, really involved in a friend group, like there is a little bit of chest pumping going on maybe right now, or someone in the group is trying to strong arm the situation. That dynamic might be playing out throughout the month. So try to maintain transparency and fairness in your friend groups and your communities. So don't let anyone try to take the reins, in that situation. Now we also have Mercury retrograde square Saturn from December 3rd through 10th. And Mercury retrograde square Saturn may create some issues with, on a personal level, like there may be some people in your life who you suddenly don't communicate with. People in your life may suddenly want to close off contact with you. Someone in your life may suddenly decide to cancel a trip to see you. But then people will rethink that during Mercury retrograde and say, well, I actually do want to talk to you again. But just kind of hang in there for the first week of December. There may be, especially after the Thanksgiving dinners, a lot of family members who decide, I don't want to talk to this person anymore because they voted for so and so, or they believe this other thing, or whatever it is, or they open up that wound that has been perennially, plaguing the family. But opposing Jupiter at the same time for stretches of those dates, I do think for a lot of people, this will just lead to general philosophical discussions, arguments. But if you're like a writer, like you work in a communications industry or a media space, it's actually kind of a nice retrograde because it's going to help you finish the book. This is a great transit for editing. So the first week of December, like finish the book, edit the book. That's actually what I'm doing in my own life. And again, just revisit travel plans, any legal issues you're facing, revisit old conversations, old like marketing or advertising strategies. If you're an entrepreneur or you deploy marketing and advertising tactics, you just want to revisit the year. What worked, what levers worked and didn't work. So like if you're an entrepreneur who works with an ad agency or a PR agency, like you're reevaluating that. Now, if you're a consumer who just like consumes the news, you might be reevaluating like where you get your sources. Maybe you subscribe to a different Substack. Maybe you stop watching a certain TV channel and start watching a certain podcast instead. And a lot of people are very disillusioned right now, very dismayed by maybe or maybe they're happy. I mean, there's obviously people who are either happy or unhappy with the way the election panned out, but whatever the case, I do think a lot of people are just reconsidering either the informational sources they rely on, or they're changing the stories they tell themselves. So everybody has a narrative. Everybody has their own, like, sort of, I don't know, maybe hero's journey that they think they're on. And right now, it's like your beliefs about where you're going and where society is going are being challenged. So maybe maybe you thought your community was staunchly Democrat or Republican. Now you're realizing it's not. You're reflecting on that. Maybe you thought that this media project you were working on was like a sure bet, and now it's not. You're reflecting on that. Maybe you thought that, again, maybe you thought this book you were writing was fantastic, and now you have to go back and edit it, and so you give the manuscript to someone, and they're like, this has some holes in it. And maybe you're rethinking where you want to travel next year. Maybe you're like trying to go across the world in February or March, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't know. I do think a lot of people, celebrities especially, are reconsidering if they want to live in the United States. But, I think with those celebrities, it has a lot more to do with their controversies. Whether it's, I don't know, well, we don't have to go there, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of celebrities right now are getting wrapped up in the controversies of the day. And a lot of them are saying, I'm going to move to the UK or I'm going to move somewhere else. And I think during a Mercury retrograde, maybe they'll reevaluate that as well. But I think a lot of people are, again, just dealing with this shattered reality. They're like, well, thought my friend or my partner or my family or my friend, yeah, or my country believed in this, but they actually don't. So ideals are being challenged big time, but especially that first week. But again, Mercury opposite Jupiter means that during that first week as well, those discussions are ideally productive and healthy for you. Now, specifically, December 3rd through 8th is the T square with Mercury, retrograde, Jupiter, and Saturn. And during that time, December 3rd through 8th, I see a lot of travel delays, travel issues, and I think that there's probably a lot of airline employees who are like calling in sick, and that constrains the supply of planes, or maybe oil supplies are restricted somehow in the Middle East. Or maybe people are traveling a lot, but they're getting sick because there's a virus going around. Now, I don't want to scare people, but there's a lot of mutable energy right now, so the transmissibility of pathogens is much higher than usual, especially with Neptune stationing direct early on in the month. And then when we go into 2025, we see the North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo, which and Saturn and Neptune getting pretty close to a conjunction. You do have to wonder if there is a pathogen that's spreading next year, another pandemic. It's not impossible, especially around March 13th. I think that eclipse in Virgo, or sorry, that eclipse in that eclipse in Virgo could be really the turning point in that story. I mean, if I look at March 13th, 2025, Virgo, a lunar eclipse in Virgo with Saturn conjunct the Sun and Neptune in the North Node, like if there was ever a time next year where a pandemic would hit, it's probably around that time. Or September when the other eclipses are going down. But, I don't want you to, live in fear of that. I'm just saying it's astrologically speaking more likely than usual, and you just want to like continue to gather information about it and make informed decisions. To not operate on fear. So that consider this a piece of the puzzle, consider this information, not fear. So let's go back to December as I talk. And now we also have Venus conjunct Pluto and opposite Mars December 7th through 16th. So this conjunction of Venus and Pluto in Aquarius is Definitely changing company values. A lot of companies are going to value automation, AI, ChatGPT, whatever it is. They're going to value it increasingly and deploy it increasingly, and probably to the detriment of their workforce. But I think that, the Pluto and Aquarius era of like innovation, science, technology, like it's barreling forward. It's not really a train, it's a train that cannot be sort of regressed and brought backwards. So with like Venus conjunct Pluto and opposing Mars, though, there could be some drama within friendships or communities. Maybe you'll have to hash some things out with a couple of friends in the second week of December. Maybe you will suddenly realize that you would rather actually be friends with someone else or a different community. You'd rather join a different community. So allegiances are changing, alliances are changing. But I think companies specifically will integrate and incorporate a lot more technology at their companies in a way that hopefully doesn't displace everybody, but it just frees people up to do other types of work. And as we enter next year, an era of fire and air, ideas and attention will be at a premium. And, I think there might be in 2025 this sort of new dynamic and ecosystem where almost like way more people are becoming content creators. They're vying for your attention. People are having to market and brand themselves and advertise their services as an individual, as an entrepreneur. And I think that Venus conjunct Pluto will just add incentives to doing that. Whether it's because the company you've been working for a long time starts to deploy automation in a way that renders a lot of people's jobs redundant, or because you all of a sudden have access to greater automative tools that free you up to become either an entrepreneur or to create your own, yeah, your own sort of digital identity. But the Mars retrograde opposing Venus, with a Mercury retrograde, is also a time where I think a lot of people will argue with prior partners. So if you have an ex that has not gotten over something yet, they're probably going to approach you between December 7th and 16th about their grievances. And then you have to decide if it's petty and you want to tune it out or if you want to engage. Now, obviously, with Mars retrograde opposing Venus and Pluto, I would say probably want to disengage from that. But if someone fights with you, it's because they feel like they're not getting enough validation. Maybe they feel like you are not complimenting them enough, you're spending too much time with your friends and not them, or maybe they feel like for some reason they've been cut out of the equation. But if you want a relationship to have a nice, smooth December and not be rocky, I actually think that you really have to go out of your way to kind of validate and affirm your partner, your friend, family member, whoever it is. Because I think people are during a Mars retrograde, Mercury retrograde, Mercury square Saturn, people are feeling, I don't know, maybe more judged than usual or something. So you have to kind of assuage those concerns and say, well, I'm not judging you. I respect you in these areas, and I really value you because otherwise, Mars brings too much intensity and too much heat into relationships. And some people are almost kind of obsessively attached to people at this time. Either obsessively attached to someone who they need validation from, or again, they're complaining that they're not getting enough validation from someone. I know this all sounds almost kind of ridiculous and dramatic, but a Mars retrograde in Leo opposing a Venus Pluto, conjunction is dramatic. I mean, it really is. And you're also going to see potentially some drama there with celebrities, like divorces could play out there. Anyways, I won't belabor the point, but Mars retrograde opposing Venus is a very rare aspect. It's actually one of the rarest aspects in astrology, along with the Mars Mercury opposition. So the Mars Venus opposition is showing that there's too much, almost like too much passion boiling over in interpersonal connections. But there is also again a vouching for the human in in the workplace. Like I think a lot of people will feel like they want to stand up for us as a species. Like human beings like need to be able to like work and have dignity in that. So, anyways, we will have also Mercury direct square Saturn again at the end of the month and the end of the year. And that direct square is definitely a time where, along with the opposition to Jupiter, I think people will feel like they have affirmed their perspectives, their beliefs, their philosophies, the way they communicate. Again, any media, branding, advertising projects are a little bit more firmly established. And if you have a book that you're working on, ideally you've finished the book or you've edited the book and you're ready to find a publisher, an agent. A lot of like, I know there's a lot of writers watching this video right now. If you are a writer, use this Mercury retrograde to finish what you've started. Because things are moving slower this month. Like, use this time to revisit the stories that you're either telling yourself or the stories that you're writing down. And some people may decide even in late December that they want to cut off contact with someone after all, or they don't want to travel somewhere. I honestly see a lot of canceled flights. I think a lot of people are canceling their flights in December for various reasons. Oh, I don't feel well, or I don't want to visit this family member anymore. I have cut off contact with this person. But in a good sense, in a positive way, again, you could just sort of like cement your overarching view of things. You could even resolve a legal dispute. And you may make peace with your whatever faith-based system you adhere to. Maybe you feel like you have a good grasp of like, I don't know, maybe this sounds too highfalutin, but like, what is God? Like, what is the universe all about? What is our place in it? I mean, these are the big questions people are asking because ultimately in December, people are after the truth. They are after the truth, and it is intentionally abstract. Like people are looking for the higher truth behind things. And we will see religious divisions deepen in December, though. I do think a lot of people will a lot of either nations will coalesce around a certain religious faith, or, I mean, I'll get into that in my global predictions in a bit, but you know, that is a theme. And then Jupiter square Saturn at the end of the month, you are again, your ideas, your beliefs are being tested. So now let's go into the executive trends. Yeah, let's talk about, I'm just going to use a midpoint as I talk about these predictions for December. So again, I mean, also just to review, I mean, as I predicted in October, November showed many issues within the airline and the travel industry. Airlines are either shedding employees or filing for bankruptcy in the case of Spirit Airlines. But also we had a Southwest flight in Dallas was struck by bullets, as was a Spirit Airlines flight in Haiti heading for Miami. This is bizarre, but also completely indicative of the Mercury and Sagittarius transit, creating a T-square with Saturn, Pisces, Jupiter, and Gemini. And back in August when Mars was in Gemini, squaring Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces, we saw the plane crash in Brazil. We saw a lot of, I think, travel issues. I think that with Mercury now in Sag on the at the sort of opposite of Gemini there and a square to Pisces, it just is highlighting, especially with Mercury retrograde, issues with logistics, transportation, maybe technology as well, but like really with like trade, logistics, and travel. That will be the theme in December. So like supply chains might become an issue either via inclement weather, war, geopolitical tensions, recalled foods, etc. The theme of immigration will obviously be in the news. And Trump is proposing tariffs. Obviously, that would affect trade significantly. We also have, again, within the travel industry, I think we have a lot of, I think there's just like this, there's a lot of demand, obviously, for travel during the holidays, but I just don't know if the infrastructure can keep up, whether it's through tech glitches or employees calling in sick, or there's staffing issues, or there's people quitting. It just feels like there's a lot of potential even for I don't know about like labor strikes or something, but maybe that could happen. Now, another topic I'm seeing here is privacy policies, actually. I think as Pluto is in Aquarius now and Mercury is retrograde in Sag, many companies might be issuing new privacy policies that are, maybe increasingly invasive, actually. Like Pluto in Aquarius is sort of this idea of like surveillance, and Pluto is that planet that investigates in the sign of Aquarius through maybe technology, social media, and platforms. So there also may be a revisitation of the TikTok ban during this month. International law will play a role, meaning like the US relationship to NATO may be changing right now, and also NATO's role in the Ukraine-Russia conflict is, of course, going to be shifting as the US maybe sees itself as being either probably less responsible for the conflict. But I want to get back into airlines now. So heading into December, I am seeing continual, again, travel difficulties and announcements about either airlines or auto companies struggling. But these issues could be exacerbated next year, especially when the North Node enters Pisces and we put a focus on oil supplies, which could be restricted due to conflict with Iran and the Middle East. So oil supplies might even be constrained in the month of December immediately, if not, though, next year. But again, I'm not going to tell anyone not to travel. I don't want to instill fear, but I do want you to know that objectively, there could be increased travel delays and tech glitches. And I could see certain world leaders possibly being involved in a high-profile accident, but I've already explained that sensitive subject to my Substack subscribers. Now let's jump to the media space. Media organizations will continue to do some soul searching. We've seen reports that CNN, MSNBC are considering staffing reductions. Now, December is a reckoning for traditional media more broadly. The model of selling stories in exchange for, well, for selling stories to consumers, but like the model for selling stories to consumers in exchange for ad revenue from a concentrated set of brands is broken. We've seen how legacy media is completely captured by big pharma, especially, given their audiences tend to be older, but we're going to see more and more iconic anchors transition into the alternative media space and podcasting, which has a much more organic feel and minimal ad interruptions. So speaking of healthcare, people are taking up different stances in December about health, healthcare, and big pharma. I do think that as Pluto reaches the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction point of December 2020 for the final time, while Mercury also squares Saturn and Jupiter squares Saturn, that people are rethinking their connection to health and wellness in the way they treat their health. And with Mars retrograde in Leo, the sign that rules the heart, I do wonder, and again, I'm not trying to scare people, but I do wonder if there's like some cardiac issues that make the headlines, that make people question whether or not they can trust certain products that entered the market in late 2020, if you catch my meaning. And with Neptune stationing direct, there could be more shifts in the healthcare space, meaning, the incoming administration, of course, is, staffing the NIH and the CDC differently. I also wonder if there's a pathogen spreading, though, with all the mutable energy that we have now. And when I say pathogen, I don't necessarily mean it has to be the bird flu, but I know they're recalling a lot of food products right now because of the bird flu. There aren't that many confirmed cases of the bird flu, so I'm not in a position here to tell you, oh, it's going to be that. But even if it's just like a flu, I do think this will definitely impact travel, and travel will pass around, I think, a pretty gnarly flu-like pathogen. The social media landscape is also changing and will continue to change as Venus conjoins Pluto in Aquarius. New platforms like Blue Sky will gain momentum and see a huge surge in MAUs, or monthly active users. Other alternative outlets could be merging with others. The potential of a TikTok ban will continue to be discussed as well. And this period of time, we'll just have people reflecting on, again, what type of informational sources they can trust. The theme of relocation will also play a role. Many celebrities have announced their departure from social media or the United States. And I do believe this is partly driven. This is kind of an exodus, maybe driven by the Diddy scandal just as much as the election. But since many of these announcements have occurred during Mercury pre-shadow or Mercury retrograde, I think a lot of these celebrities will actually regret leaving eventually. But retrogrades are a time for a lot of people to take a break from social media, so that makes sense. Now, when it comes to war, the specter of global war continues to grow because the Sag new moon is conjunct Antares, the Watcher of the West, and a fixed star connected to the Crusades and the religious wars. So let's go to that new moon. Because the Antares-Aldebaran axis is very powerful. I mean, and you'll see, by the way, November 30th shown here, but it's really December 1st if you adjust for most time zones. 9/11, for example, Antares-Aldebaran. Pluto was at 12 Sag, Jupiter was in Gemini and close enough to the Aldebaran-Antares axis. Big shifts were happening in the Gulf War in the early 90s, late 1990, early 1991, which was when Mars was retrograde in Gemini, crossing over Aldebaran. So, you know, I'm not suggesting that we're going to have another event like 2001 or 91, but I'm just saying that religiously motivated conflicts may occur in December. And religious convictions could deepen the divide between nations or factions. And keep in mind, Pluto is opposing the World War II Pluto. So the theme of nuclear power is coming up, especially in Russia, especially in Ukraine. And why is that? I mean, I talked about this in March of 2022. I said that a lot of alignments are forming that are reminiscent of the World War II chart, meaning the 1939 chart that shows the initiation of World War II. So with Pluto opposing that position next year, and right now, with Mars retrograde on the World War II Pluto right now, you know, the theme of nuclear power, I think, is coming up, especially because Pluto in Aquarius deals with energy. So even separate from war, people are going to be thinking about alternative sources of energy. Now, in terms of the election aftermath, some astrologers were wondering if there would be a recount during the Mercury retrograde, but I'm not really seeing that. I think when it comes to the election aftermath, this will more so show that Trump's cabinet picks will receive thorough scrutiny. But also, I just wonder if there's some travel issues going on. Which is, again, I'm going to put a hard stop on making any more statements with that and leave that to the Substack. Now, for Pluto in Aquarius predictions, that's way beyond the scope of this video, but I will do a separate video about Pluto and Aquarius later in December. And generally, Pluto and Aquarius will put the focus on either disassembling bloated governmental structures, it'll put the focus on free energy, and a possible pole shift. Now, yes, authoritarianism could rise, but I also think there will be genuine attempts to either, again, dismantle governmental organizations or to build local communities, local farms, local currencies, local sources of production, especially after another pandemic, which I think will happen in the eventual near future. And that type a pandemic that like has a much higher mortality rate than COVID would, especially through if that pandemic was to occur through food supplies, like mass production of food. In the aftermath of that pandemic, people would start to return to their like local communities to farm and source food and things like that. So I think when Chiron goes into Taurus later this decade, people are going to, I think, get back into just like organic, local foods, but like they will literally generate their own energy, their own food supplies. People will not be reliant on centralized powers as Pluto goes through Aquarius. There may still be authoritarian governments, but I still think there's going to be these movements in local pockets where everything is locally sourced. But that's for another video. So let's go through the new and full moons in December. We have a Sag new moon December 1st, which you can see on the screen here. And what's going on with that new moon? We have, again, it is conjunct Antares. If you see anyone talk about the new moon without talking about Antares, I think they're missing the picture. Anytime we see Antares activated, we have to talk about religious wars, crusades, and war. Because Antares has a lot to do with military strategy, along with Aldebaran. And I do think this new moon will bring those global conflicts between Russia and Ukraine to a new level, like, and within the Middle East. So, I mean, it's probably more so with Russia and Ukraine, but I think a lot of other countries maybe starting to get roped into that conflict right now. We also have a square to Saturn. So this new moon is really challenging people's beliefs, and people may become more entrenched in their religious doctrines or their beliefs of some kind. We also have the chart ruler Jupiter opposing Mercury. So a lot of changes within media, legal decisions being handed down, reflections on. I mean, I think some media companies are going to try to acquire, they're going to merge, or one is going to acquire the other, and that will be drawn out for a long time. Pluto again is in Aquarius now, but Mars is opposing Pluto. So, well, yeah, with the Sag new moon, it's like people are really hooking into a certain belief system, and they are really willing to kind of like fight for that belief, which is not great for global conflict. But Venus trines Uranus, which I like. I mean, that can generate a lot of collective collaboration. But this is really about affirmation of belief and choosing your higher truth. Now, it is a new moon, so we could begin something new, but Mercury is retrograde. So it's more so a reflection of it's finishing something. You're beginning to finish something is really what's happening there. Now we have a Gemini full moon December 15th, which I will again show right here on the screen. Gemini full moon, 23 Gemini. This is an ending, a release point, catharsis. The chart ruler Mercury is retrograde in Sag, stationing direct though that very same day. And what that really shows is, well, even with Venus opposing Mars, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening here where the new moon is in the thick of Mercury retrograde. So whereas the new moon is a beginning usually, it's highly reflective. What this full moon is showing is that it is an ending still, but it is a point of clarity because Mercury is stationing direct at the same time. And it's still kind of squaring Saturn. And it's sextiling Venus, which I like. Perspective on relationships is coming through. It's trining Mars, trining the North Node. So people are really, I think, feeling empowered by their beliefs. They're maybe having intellectual breakthroughs. They're coming up with new ideas, new ways of solving problems and puzzles. And also, but the Venus-Mars opposition shows me that there is some degree of argumentation, though, in relationships, and a bunch of legal decisions are being handed down at that time, I think, in the collective. I think there's going to be some kind of like high-profile case there where something is either, where it kind of is a little surprising to people. Maybe it's related to the TikTok ban. I feel like there's some kind of decision with the TikTok ban around that time. Also, the election, the presidential election in the United States, the results are affirmed, I think, around December 7th. So by this time, I don't know if there's drama with that. Maybe, probably not. But I think it's more so that there's probably a recount with like a congressional election that's continuing there. But also a lot of travel related, again, issues, delays. And maybe there's actually a food supply that's cut off. I'm not saying that like people are gonna go hungry and have to worry about this necessarily, but like I'm just saying that there's some kind of like commodity or food item that people want that they can't get, maybe, or suddenly there is a travel restriction on a certain area because there's a pathogen spreading or because of a battle, because of war. Yeah, I could see honestly a lot of those different types of things playing out. And then we have December 30th, we have a Cap new moon at 9 degrees of Cap. And here we have the chart ruler Saturn in Pisces and squaring Jupiter. So we have the Jupiter Saturn square right here. And this is another legal resolution, though. I think that this or just continues. Venus is squaring Uranus. So this has a lot to do with tech companies and technology yet again. So there's just a lot of legal drama in the tech space. Whether it's like, what can someone like, is there a conflict of interest between these two companies? Or is it a conflict of interest to own a social media company and be involved in the government in this way? Like Elon Musk is basically going to be in the news a lot. And there may be, again, some decisions handed down about pulling a product from the shelves, a pharmaceutical product, or maybe here's another thing, actually. Any deceptive marketing practices in the pharmaceutical industry will be exposed here, or even other industries too, though, like the investing or stock industry. I remember like Robinhood got in a lot of trouble once for the way they gamify their app. There could be something like that being discussed here. And also there is like international law being deployed here. So maybe NATO or some sort of larger organizational body is sanctioning something, sanctioning Iran, and now they can't supply oil or something, or maybe Russia is being sanctioned for something. I mean, I feel like with Pluto and Aquarius and Mars on the World War II Pluto, it's probably honestly most likely that Russia is continuing to use very dangerous rhetoric about nuclear power and that, international legal organizations are basically telling Russia, like, you have to tone down the rhetoric here, like, this is not acceptable. I feel like there's something with that. But also, I don't want to shut out the possibility that there is maybe, again, I don't want to scare people, but I just want you to have this information. It's not impossible that there is some kind of mystery illness, mystery flu-like symptom that is permeating society and not necessarily leading to a full shutdown, but causing a lot of people to like delay or cancel their travel plans or rethink their travel plans because they are either feeling sick or they don't want to get exposed. Like, I think the travel industry is by far the most challenged industry in December, followed by the tech industry. And again, with the new moon in Sag conjunct Antares, there's a lot of like, sort of, I don't know, reports that the war drums are beating louder. And I do think that a lot of militaries are re-strategizing, strategizing differently throughout December. And so even if there's not a lot of activity in December in the news related to war, I think behind the scenes, a lot of militaries are strategizing with the new moon conjunct Antares. But most likely, with that new moon on Antares, I am seeing like potential of like, either aircraft launches or missile launches and things like that. And aviation will be in the news a lot as well. Yeah, I just think there's some aviation issues a little bit there. But I don't really want to like lean in so heavily to that because I'm not really in the business of like trying to instill fear in people. But just astrologically, it does feel like there's some kind of malfunction in that area. So let's go into the horoscopes. So next section, we're going to make predictions for each zodiac sign in December. What I'm going to do is actually look at the new and full moons, for the month and apply it to your sun, moon, and rising sign. And by the way, if you want to take a look at 2025, the entire year, every new and full moon with like an actual professional camera setup, not this like kind of Zoom stuff, then download my 2025 horoscopes. And almost 5,000 people have already downloaded a video. And all the reviews that I've seen are really positive. Only selling them for 20 bucks, same price as last year and the year before, despite inflation, selling them for the same price. And my team wanted me to charge more like 50. I decided against it because I just want people to have access to the videos. I want as many people to have access as possible, but I put a lot of work into them. That's why I have a price attached to them. Because it goes through again every new and full moon, retrograde cycles, ingresses, key trends, channeled insights, and just pure analysis with visuals as well for every new and full moon. Definitely don't want to miss that. So let's go into the month of December, and we'll start off with Aries and go from Aries to Pisces. So in December for Aries, first of all, and I'm showing a midpoint of the month, but I'm going to talk about the other lunations. There's a new moon in Sag, December 1st in your ninth house, while Mercury is retrograde. I mean, let's just actually use Aries as a sort of an example of each full moon, so that everybody can have a visual of it. But for Aries, you're going to have the Sag new moon in the ninth, like I said. So this could be in early December. You might be taking a long distance trip, booking a flight, but with Mercury retrograde, you just want to anticipate possible delays. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't travel, but the ruling planet of the new moon is Jupiter, and it's in the third house. So for Aries, I mean, a lot of you could be reflecting on a media project, a publishing project, something you've been writing, podcasts you've been involved in. Some of you might reevaluate your belief systems, your perspective, your philosophy, again, your travel plans. And also, we do have Venus in your 10th at that time. So that's pretty nice. I mean, Venus in the 10th can bring about more positive outcomes with your career. You could have more productive and positive professional relationships. You could be seen more favorably in your career at this time. And also Saturn and Neptune are still in your 12th house, still reflecting on mental health and spiritual well-being. Mars in the fifth is a great time to engage in creative hobbies, athletic competition, to even like be kind of competitive creatively, but I think that can be a good thing. And opposite Pluto in the 11th. You could be looking to join more powerful communities. And with the North Node kind of finishing its transit over the next few months in Aries, you're realizing how strong you are independently, how strong you are despite whatever life throws at you. And I think you're learning to appreciate, well, you're appreciating yourself and you're standing up for yourself. And I think that you can start to carve your own path over the next few months now that the North Node is finishing its transit. It's like in your sign. It's like, wow, I've surmounted so many challenges this year and the second half of 2023. I should feel confident to press ahead with a range of projects and things. If you are a writer, again, though, finish the book at the beginning of the month. And then we get into the Gemini full moon in mid-December in your third house. So that Gemini full moon, I have to go backwards a day, but that Gemini full moon in the third could be a time where you actually, sorry, let me just keep adjusting for Aries there. Could be a time where you actually complete a writing project though, like fully, or you come back from a trip. Maybe you have sort of like an emotional moment with a sibling. Maybe you just have these very enlightening conversations. But I like that Venus is in your 11th at that time. So social activity can really pick up. Although with Mars retrograde opposing Venus, just make sure you're not creating too much tension between yourself and your communities, especially if you feel like you're not being validated enough. Don't be petty about it, like just introduce it in a more diplomatic way. But yeah, I mean, I think that Gemini new moon, or sorry, full moon is an amazing time for you to complete, again, a media writing project or to seek closure even with someone in a conversation, to send the email, the text message, have the phone call with them about, hey, like this is over, or I want to reconcile. And then we have a Cap new moon on December 30th, and that new moon is in the 10th house. So perhaps some Aries are actually starting a new career at that time. Maybe in rare cases, they're actually becoming parents or taking on a different type of authority position. Mercury is now direct at that time, so in the ninth, you can move forward. Like traveling would go better for you at that time. Venus is squaring Uranus, so there's some sudden changes there with your social media presence or your friendships. Not a bad time to like suddenly earn more money off of a social media pursuit, or to just have an exciting and even indulgent moment within a community. Maybe you're all going to a nice restaurant or something. And Mars opposing Pluto still, though, is showing that you don't want to be too prideful about certain things, and you don't want to create conflict in your friendships through that excessive pride. So avoid excessive pride and find genuine peace in your creative hobbies and activities. And I think for some areas, I mean, Mars retrograde in the fifth can show that there is this enormous amount of passion for romance and your romantic life, but maybe you're a little bit exhausted by it. So if you're an Aries who is like heavily involved in the dating scene, this is a time where you want to like rethink how you're approaching your dating life. Maybe you are looking for fulfillment in the wrong places in a way. But yeah, I mean, the Mars retrograde is definitely a time to kind of calm down in that area, and to, think about again, like like what type of romance am I looking for somebody? So now I'm going to go to Taurus, and I'm going to actually for Taurus, I'm going to start to just hold it and fix it on the midpoint of the month. So Taurus, you have the Sag new moon, December 1st, in your eighth house of, shared assets, finances, debt, shadow work. And the Sag new moon could be a really nice time for you as a Taurus to reevaluate where you're either storing like shared possessions with a partner, or how you are investing and co-investing in any financial instruments or assets with a partner. You could reflect on just your own investment picture and how it's changed throughout the year. Some of you might reflect on previous uh, maybe traumas even, and how, that affects you in relationships. And the new moon, though, again, in theory, is a new beginning. It could be the new beginning of like a new an investment approach, but also I think for a lot of you, it is just like a new way of reflecting on your investing philosophy. We will have Mercury retrograde at that time, right? And retrograde at 20 degrees opposing Jupiter more so than squaring Saturn. So, from that vantage point, I think that the Sag new moon is very good at driving home new perspectives, though. And with Mercury opposing Jupiter from the 8th to the 2nd, yet again, the new perspective that would come in has a lot to do with money, salary, spending, assets. So if you're a Taurus who wants to just sort of rethink your spending habits, great new moon for that. If you're a Taurus who wants to speculate about a new investing strategy, great time. Venus will be in the ninth house. So a lot of you might be exploring investments in education or long distance travel. But I want to go to the Gemini full moon now in the second house. This is an illumination of your values, also your natural abilities, and again, personal finances. So some of you might realize that you want to take a different approach to money management. Some of you could transition even to like a different salary, or some of you might let go of an outdated value system and hold new values. The ruling planet, by the way, of the new moon or the full moon is Mercury in the eighth. And maybe you're recalibrating your financial sort of habits in light of a changing investment strategy. And some of you might reflect on how you build wealth with a business partner or a romantic partner. And I like that Venus is in the 10th at that time. So what I don't like is that Mars is retrograde in the fourth. So you're probably having to manage a lot of family drama. But with Venus in the 10th, professional relationships can operate more smoothly, more effectively, and you could find more lucrative professional partners. You could work on more creative stuff. And if you do anything in the public eye, your reputation would just generally improve there. And you may find yourself just drawn to very wealthy people. So you could find a very wealthy connection at that time, actually, and someone who can really help you navigate your financial life more effectively. And Mercury square Saturn there in the 11th. There's a slight chance that some of you would cut off contact with a friend, but actually more likely you would learn more about money management through a friend or a community. And you could be seen as someone who kind of mediates an issue in the family. Maybe there is family drama, but you're able to manage it with poise and grace. And then we have the Capricorn new moon, December 30th, in the ninth house of higher philosophy, long distance travel, higher education. A new moon at the very end of the year in the ninth, maybe you are committing to a long distance trip. Maybe you are traveling for career purposes because Venus is in the 10th still, and squaring Uranus, by the way. And the Venus Uranus square is a great time to collaborate with people in your professional network, or to do something in the digital space or social media space for work, or to just kind of shake up some of your professional partnerships. And Mercury will be in a direct square to Saturn at that time, right? So when you go to the Cap new moon on December 30th, Mercury square Saturn, still kind of opposing Jupiter, is, I think, like really reassuring. It's like you're feeling very solid in your perspective about what? Your perspective about your finances, your investments, and maybe you're feeling like you can have really meaty, substantive conversations with some of your friends that could happen. And I think you're just having a lot of thorough conversations with people in your network that actually help you out in your investing and business life. But for others, it's like the new moon in Cap in the ninth is a commitment to a new educational path or a new belief system that you feel even more solid in. And with the ninth house being our outlook on the world, I think that some of you may start to value just like responsibility and consistency more and more, and longevity, meaning you're willing to make investments in something that compounds over the long term. Like, I don't know if it's property or something, but it could be like you just decide to allocate more of your earnings towards savings. I mean, there is like a responsibility coming in, I think, for Taurus, and they're influenced positively by their friends who are feeling maybe increasingly responsible. So now let's go to Gemini. Before I do that, I have to adjust something with the software. Now let's go to Gemini. So Gemini, you have the Sagittarius new moon December 1st in your seventh house of committed partnerships, while Mercury is retrograde opposing Jupiter. So a new moon in the seventh can be a new sort of energy within a relationship that you establish. There could be, in theory, a partnership that is blossoming, but with Mercury retrograde, it's more likely that you are entering a new reflection period on past relationships, or maybe you are starting to consider going back to somebody. Not that I would wait till Mercury's direct, but on December 15th. But I do think a lot of Geminis are just taking stock of their relationships and maybe having conversations with people who they were close to, but they haven't been lately. Um, so Gemini, this is a time to catch up on a lot of, just a lot of different, unfinished conversations with people. Yeah, to finish those conversations and slight miscommunication could happen in relationships there. And with the opposition to Jupiter, though, I do think that you have the right perspective on like who your ideal partner would be or why a partnership went wrong. I think you just have the perspective you need. And if you are really focused on your career, which you might be with Saturn in the 10th right now, you might reflect on who you need in your corner to advance your career goals. Maybe you realize that your closest circle of connections um, could be higher quality, or maybe there is somebody in your life who actually could already help you with your career prospects. And also, we'll have Venus in the eighth at that time. So, some of you might be meeting with financial advisors or focusing on the deeper aspects of your relationship and how you connect with your partner. And through a deeper connection, you are reflecting on the relationship and how you can further your connection with your partner. Maybe you decide to combine finances in some way. And also, you have Mars in your third right now. So, generally, you are a little bit more argumentative, but also more stimulated by new intellectual exploration. Now, the Gemini full moon, though, on December 15th, is very cathartic because it's in your sign. So this is a time in mid-December to let go of a range of things, let go of your emotions you've repressed, maybe let go of a relationship, maybe move on from a certain job or communications project, or maybe you finish a book. But in general, you are feeling really, I think, optimistic though, because the full moon is conjunct Jupiter in your first house. So maybe you're feeling gratitude and grateful for your accomplishments this year. Maybe you do reevaluate a long distance trip you want to take, but for the most part, I just think that you are taking a step back, almost more so than any other sign apart from Sag. And the ruling planet Mercury is stationing direct that same day in your seventh house. So you are able to tell the truth to somebody in a relationship. That's what's happening there. And Mars is retrograde, opposing Venus in the ninth. So, out of all the signs, again, including Sag, you are the most likely to have some kind of dispute about either a travel plan with somebody or a philosophical dispute, actually. Maybe you are fighting with a relative, a cousin, or a sibling, or even a neighbor. Um, and also, with Venus conjunct Pluto, yeah, I think a lot of you might be investing in education or travel, but I think with Mercury direct at that time, ultimately you are imbuing your significant relationships with the utmost truth. And that truth is setting that relationship either free or it is allowing that relationship to move to another level, to the next stage because of that truthfulness. I mean, you are telling the truth in that, yeah, in that relationship. Also, we have the Cap new moon, December 30th, in the eighth house of investments and shared assets and the subconscious. And the Cap new moon is in the eighth. Mercury's retro or direct at that time, so it is a good time to, reflect on your, I mean, maybe start a new investment plan, new investment strategy, maybe to plant firmer roots with a partner financially, where you're connecting more for the long term. Venus will square Uranus at that time from the 9th to the 12th. So potentially, if you're traveling as a Gemini in the later part of the month, there might be some exciting relationships that you're forming on those trips, or maybe you suddenly realize that you would like to travel with someone, or you would like to go on a different trip, or you'd like to go on another trip. I think some Geminis might actually travel somewhere and then travel and then add to the trip. They get another flight to another country and like, just have a little bit of fun with it. With Mars retrograde in the third, you are looking to debate a lot, exchange a lot of ideas with people to a point maybe of exhaustion. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think what Geminis should want by the end of December, ideally, is a more thorough perspective on their relationships, but also how they can make strategic alliances to further their career. I mean, I think that's what a lot of it is. Or maybe there's like a media or like an agency that's helping Geminis get ahead in their career. So now let's go to Cancers. Cancers, you have the new moon in Sag, December 1st, in your sixth house of health and routines and coworkers. A new moon in the sixth. It's really a time to, what during a Mercury retrograde, to reevaluate how you're organizing your day-to-day life, and how you're approaching your health. So a lot of cancers maybe are just reconfiguring their daily habits. So great new moon to start to like maybe go to the gym more often or change your nutrition, your diet, to reflect on also pets, sixth house is pets, but like overall your philosophy on health is changing. And Mercury is squaring or is opposing Jupiter at that time. So you're also merging your perspectives on mental, spiritual, and physical health to have a more holistic view. Venus is in the seventh still at that time, so um, maybe you are adopting a new routine in order to support a more successful partnership, even to make more time for your partnership. Or you are renegotiating contracts, maybe you're entering into new business partnerships with Venus and Cap in the seventh. Mars is in the second house, so some of you are feeling very competitive about making money or invest or proving that you make money or something, or you are putting a lot of energy into expenditures. You're buying things that validate you, like fashion or clothes, or you are dining at nice restaurants to try to prove your worth. You don't want to get too wrapped up in that, right? Ideally, Mars in the second is in Leo, helping you reinvest in your values and your natural talents, I should say. So then we have the Gemini full moon, December 15th, in your 12th house of spirituality, isolation, reflection, the unconscious, the past lives. A full moon in the 12th is very much a time to relax. It's a time to rest. It's a time to recharge, disconnect from all the stimuli out there, and to, maybe with Saturn in your ninth house, maybe some of you are finishing a book. Maybe some of you are just throughout the first half of December incorporating your writing into your day-to-day routine a lot and then finishing the book. Others are having spiritual epiphanies or very vivid dreams. I think a lot of cancers are just going to have like very epic dreams around December 15th. With Venus opposing Mars in the eighth and the second, I think some of you are engaging in financial disputes at that time. So be really careful about that. Or you're arguing about where to invest money, how to invest money with a partner. Maybe you're arguing within your family about inheritances or wills or something like that, with Pluto in your eighth now. And then we have the Capricorn new moon, December 30th, in your seventh house. So the Cap new moon is prime opportunity to really start to like add more stability into a relationship. But I also think with Saturn squaring Jupiter at that time, you may disagree with a partner about your philosophy, your values, your political beliefs, or whatnot, or maybe you resolve those things, or you fight with a partner about where to travel. But ideally, a lot of you are forming more stable long-term relationships at that time. However, Venus will square Uranus at the same time. So a lot of you might be experiencing some disruptions either in the way that you invest in something with a partner or someone else in your life. Maybe you want to avoid any secretive dynamics, I think, within your communities. But ideally, for Cancers, by the end of the year, you're feeling like you have reintroduced stability into your relationships. The only reason that wouldn't be true is if you don't have a clear alignment of your beliefs and philosophies. And again, like where you want to travel in the near future, potentially. And Mercury will be squaring Saturn at that time, so maybe you'll arrive at a very clear, though, belief system in terms of like health. Your philosophy on health maybe is solidifying. So next we have Leo. The Sag new moon, December 1st is in your fifth house of creativity, romance, short-term relationships, and children. So, the new moon in Sag with a Mercury retrograde, amazing time to revisit what brings you joy, to do things just for the love of it, just for the fun of it, to reconnect with either children or your inner child or your creative hobbies. And maybe some of you will reconnect with an old flame or casual relationship, although it doesn't have to be that way. But you're reflecting on, again, how you can create more joy, how you can spark more joy in your life. And Venus will be in the sixth in Cap. So you're trying to balance out your health, your day-to-day, create, again, more balance between work and play. And, ideally carve out more space for just joyful activities. We will have Mars in the first this time and really the whole month. So you are more likely to get pissed off at people to have a short fuse. So use creativity as an outlet so that you don't go overboard there. The Gemini full moon is December 15th in your 11th house of communities, friendships, politics, and social media. The Gemini full moon is a great time to have a big time realization about your friendships, your communities, your social media progress, to evaluate that progress, to maybe let go of a friendship or to have an emotionally open dialogue with a friend. Venus is in the seventh at that time, opposing Mars. So, you know, you either will become obsessed with someone, maybe in your friend group there, or you will maybe feel a little bit tempted to break away from a partnership, or you will have a very physically intimate connection with a partner. If you've been having physical intimacy issues within a partnership, maybe that will actually subside by that time and you feel very passionately connected to your partner. Or you quite dislike them and you want to be away from them. Now, yeah, any disagreements in the relationship would be about finances, investments, and maybe who you can be friends with or something. Now we have a Cap new moon, December 30th in your sixth house. Oh, and sorry for Leo. Yeah, again, like try to manage conflict in that second half of the month and also avoid arguing too much over money and possessions. And also don't get too possessive of somebody because that could create a lot of drama. Cap new moon, December 30th in your sixth. This is a new approach long term to like health and health practices. Venus will be squaring, or maybe a new work style. Maybe you will dedicate to a new fitness regimen. Maybe you will just work differently in your day to day. You're reorganizing your daily life as a Leo by the end of the year. And with the South Node, with the eclipse recently in your third house, maybe some of you are managing conflict differently with your siblings, actually. But with Venus square Uranus, you could form really interesting professional relationships or yeah, I mean, you could change your perspective on parenting within a partnership, like meaning maybe you didn't want to become a parent and now you do. That's like kind of a niche thing, but ideally, Leo's like you are really bringing passion back into your relationships. And also standing up for yourself, though, and setting boundaries or asserting yourself in relationships that you feel are imbalanced. But you really want to strive for balance in your relationships because with Venus in the seventh, with Pluto there, I don't think that a lot of you will have balance. I think a lot of you will be overly attached to somebody, overly just like obsessed with someone and attracted to somebody, or you just won't, I don't know, you just create a lot of conflict in that relationship. So pursue moderation for sure. Virgos, you have the Sag new moon December 1st in your fourth house of home, property, and family. So, in theory, a new moon in the fourth is a time to move or renovate something with your home. But with Mercury retrograde, it's not really a time to move. It's more of a time to reflect on your home environment. Take this time to reflect on, am I living in the right place? Do I feel good about how I'm connected to my family? Is this home renovation project on the right track? So it's a time to finish the renovation project, to reconvene with family, to reflect on your property if you feel like you're in the right place, like I said. And Venus is in the fifth. So relationships can have a romantic maybe flair to them at the same time, which is a separate thing, but I think that's nice. And your creativity could be flourishing. Um, and also, by the end of the month, ideally, Virgos, you kind of know where you want to live or how you want to deal with your family. Um, and maybe with Saturn in your seventh, some of you are feeling the pressure of commitment to a partner and you're debating where you want to live and how you want to maybe move in together. With Mars in the 12th, you do have to mind your sleep hygiene, meaning get adequate sleep. Some of you are navigating restless nights at this time, and that could be, of course, a challenge. So use that more so to rediscover a passion for your meditation practices, your spirituality, etc. Now we have a Gemini full moon December 15th in your 10th house of career, vocation, and also parenting, maybe. But a full moon in the 10th can be a time where somebody transitions into a different career, they reach a new career milestone, or they adopt a new perspective on parenting, or they have a new perspective on their parents. Mercury will station direct the same day in your fourth. So maybe some of you are making sense of your career prospects and your property related plans. Maybe some of you are transitioning out of a job and into a new one, and it's giving you the money to move, or maybe the job is in a different location, so you're moving because of that. Venus is in the sixth with Pluto. So you want to avoid drama with coworkers, avoid gossip with coworkers, and with Mars opposing, you may put a lot of value into your fitness or your diet or your health, but restless nights would really chip away at that progress. And like restless nights would really undermine the progress that you would be making in with your health, your fitness, your wellness routine. And just don't gossip either about any coworkers. So I think that would create a lot of drama right now. Um, but ideally, like in the first half of December, you feel like you have a really clear, coherent perspective on your family, how you want to relate to them, where you want to live, how you want to navigate any roommate related situations. And maybe you get, I mean, sometimes a full moon is just like this high charged moment where something is also, though, where something is fully embodied. So some of you are manifesting a job actually in the 10th house, and that's helping you stay where you are. You realize that you can live where you are right now, where you're at right now. And we also have the Cap new moon, December 30th and the 5th. Great time to initiate a new creative hobby or practice, or maybe to go on a date or something. You will have Venus square Uranus from the 6th to the 9th. Some of you may realize that you have a diverging philosophy with a coworker, or maybe you, again, change your perspective on your wellness routines. But I do think a lot of you are contending with opportunities in your career in December clashing with responsibilities in your partnership or with your family. So ideally, Virgos can reconcile these competing priorities by the end of December. And Virgos feel like they have a maybe a serious long-term relationship that supports their career goals, or their business partnerships are actually thriving and supporting career growth. So yeah, I mean, Virgos, you have a big month. I mean, you are ideally feeling more established in your home, feeling clearer about how you're connecting with your family, and you have a really nice perspective on your career goals, or you're actually getting a new job. I mean, that is not impossible for Virgos. Now we have Libras. You have a new moon in Sag, December 1st, in your third house of local travel, neighbors, siblings, education, and writing. So, Libras, out of almost all the signs, you are in the best position in early December to finish a writing project, finish a communications project, to maybe even like take a, I don't know, local trip. But because Mercury is retrograde, anticipate delays, potential issues if you do travel. But I do think a lot of you are finishing lyrics, a book, a manuscript, a podcast, whatever it is. And we also have Venus in the fourth at that time. So ideally, you're balancing your connections within your family. You're beautifying your home, maybe for the holidays. For Libras, like decorating your home is a great idea. And also, maybe establishing a new dynamic with a sibling, reconnecting with a sibling, revisiting unfinished coursework, potentially. And Venus, or sorry, Mercury is opposing Jupiter in the ninth. So a lot of Libras maybe are trying to take a trip in December, or changing their tone about a certain trip they want to take or they don't want to take. Like some Libras are going to be like maybe dealing with some travel complications. But by reevaluating it, it's going to alleviate any headaches with those travels in the near future, right? Mars is in the 11th. So you are probably motivated to socialize, but also you're being overly competitive maybe with friends or arguing with friends. So you have to manage that. Now we have a Gemini full moon, December 15th in your ninth house of higher education, travel, long distance, philosophy. The full moon in the ninth could be the completion of a trip, the return from a trip, the epiphany about a philosophy that you actually realize you have, and you maybe change your perspective on things. You might also change your perspective on a trip. Maybe you decide that you don't want to travel. Maybe you decide that you do want to travel. Maybe you complete an educational path. Um, and Venus is in the fifth with Pluto. Some of you will develop very intense romantic connections in the second half of December with Venus in the fifth, or you will be maniacally focused on your creativity and your creative hobbies. Opposing Mars in the 11th, though. Avoid jealousy with friends. Definitely avoid fighting with friends. Avoid fighting or arguing on social media. With Mercury direct or stationing direct that same day, I do think by December 15th, Libras will have a very good perspective, though, on whether or not they want to travel somewhere, where they want to travel, when they want to travel, and so on. You've sorted out the details. Um, you might go to a concert, though. Some of you might start to go to concerts in the second half of December with friends or creative events. You just have to watch out for don't pick fights while you're at the concert, so to speak. But yeah, a lot of you are intensifying your focus, though, on creativity or finding a romantic partner. And you might find someone who you're just smitten with and obsessed with, especially while traveling or with Mercury retrograde in the third, you might hear from an ex situationship who's still obsessed with you. Now we have a Cap new moon, December 30th, in your fourth house of home, property, foundation. And the new moon in Cap on December 30th could show that some of you are moving or establishing a new property or a new dynamic within your home. Maybe you're relating with family differently. Or yeah, you're committing to a long-term property. With Venus squaring Uranus, some of you will suddenly have a situationship exit your life or enter your life. And if you go on any dates in late December, they might be pretty enthralling. They might be actually very spicy in a way. Or, I mean, look, if you're a Libra who's involved in social media, by the way, like you'll be wanting to put energy into that, but don't get too exhausted by it. Don't put so much energy into social media that you tire yourself out. Also, don't entertain every argument within your communities and friend groups. But also, some of you might realize that you'd like to play a leadership role in a community. Oh, and also, finish the book, like I said. Maybe some of you are reevaluating media partnerships, advertising partnerships, or again, communications projects. But ideally, you know where you like want to travel to by the end of this month, and also maybe are struggling a little bit with some coworkers, but ideally you have a better relationship with them by the end of the month after navigating some challenges. So next we have Scorpio. Scorpio, you have the Sag new moon in your second house of money, possessions, values, natural talents. So December 1st, the Sag new moon during a Mercury retrograde in the second would show that you might be adopting a new financial strategy, but you might be reflecting on your spending, your budgeting, your money, yeah, your spending habits. You might reflect on how your natural talents are being utilized or underutilized in your job. Um, you might reflect on your values generally. With Mercury opposing Jupiter at that time, you're most likely, though, reflecting on financial strategies, investments, and salary. Maybe some of you are setting new financial goals for next year, you're agreeing to a new salary, or you're rethinking the job that you actually want based on the salary that is offered. With Venus in the third, some of you are working on a book or creative writing, or you are relating better with siblings or neighbors. Some of you might be looking to finish a book or sell a book or a manuscript or find a book agent. With Saturn in the fifth, a lot of you are trying to scale up a very ambitious creative project, actually. And then we have also Mars in the 10th. So you are making big moves in your career, but maybe facing some frustration in the career, or you're being overly competitive in the public eye or in your career. Next, we have a Gemini full moon in the 8th, December 15th, while Venus is in the 4th. This is a big one. I mean, this is a lot about changing your investment strategy yet again. Reaching an investment milestone, maybe paying off debt or taking out a loan or deciding to invest in property. A lot of Scorpios might invest in property in mid-December with Venus conjunct Pluto in the 4th. Or maybe they have a discussion within their family about a will or an inheritance or a trust or something. With Mars retrograde in the 10th, A lot of Scorpios might be fighting with family members, though, fighting with a parent about property or about assets. Um, we also have Jupiter in the eighth, though, helping some Scorpios, I think, do a lot of profound shadow work and realize where maybe they have repressed something. Maybe they have a breakthrough in their subconscious that helps them channel more effectively, or maybe they develop a bit of a psychic sense for that, maybe just that full moon, but it's interesting. Or they change who they rely on for taxes or accounting or financial advisory. Um, yeah, maybe they even invest in travel. It's possible. But a lot of Scorpios are changing their perspective with investing and money. Um, the Cap new moon, December 30th, is in the third house of communication, local travel, writing, education. The new moon in Cap in the third, again, could be the commitment to a trip, traveling, or um, they could start to commit to a long-term writing project, media project, or educational project. Some Scorpios might just have a really serious conversation at that time with Venus square Uranus. They probably will have a very serious conversation, even with a partner, if they have a partner, about where to live, where to settle. And with with Venus square Uranus, I do think the conversation with a partner, it just could show sudden changes in the way that you're decorating your home together, where you're living, or in property you want to invest in. Or maybe your family is relating to your partner very differently, or there's like an unexpected moment that changes the partnership in the context of family for whatever reason. And remember, Mars is still retrograde in the 10th at that time. So you want to really continue to manage conflict within the family or within your career. Saturn square Jupiter is showing that you're investing in a creative project maybe differently, or you're I don't know, maybe not hiring people per se, but you're investing in your creativity very differently. And hang on, I have to adjust something. Now we have Sagittarius to talk about. So for Sagittarius, you have the Sag new moon in your first house of self, December 1st. A new moon is usually a great time to just start anew, rejuvenate, renew. It's a renewal, obviously, but of really anything in the first house. And most likely, though, something about your look, your style, your vibe, your appearance. Maybe you're changing something about your appearance, even identity, or you are just presenting yourself differently. But it could, anytime a new moon's in your sign, could be like a new job, relationship, etc. But Mercury's retrograde, so Sagittarius, you're highly reflective at this time. You're really reflecting on you know, your travels, your beliefs, your perspectives. With Mercury retrograde, there's some miscommunication potentially. And also, yeah, just again, just be careful with communicating when you communicate. Don't rush through things. And I think you should be okay. And the new moon with Mercury opposing Jupiter, I mean, I actually kind of like that opposition. I think it is giving you really nice perspectives on your vision for next year, what type of relationships you want, where you want to travel, and so on. We also have Venus in the second, so you are focused on finances a lot and money and attracting more wealth into your life. Mars is in the ninth, so some disputes about philosophy, arguments about education or philosophy, maybe a strong motivation to travel though. And yeah, I think that new moon though, most likely for most of you will just give you a higher perspective on, again, like where you want 2025 to take you. And also with Saturn in the fourth, maybe how you manage responsibilities in your family. I think some Sages are actually having to navigate a lot in their family right now, whether it's because a parent or grandparent has aged very rapidly, or there's just big questions about where they want to live, where they want to move to. So Sag, I mean, don't move too fast in December, but take this new moon to actually kind of just, again, step back and reflect. The full moon in Gemini is December 15th in your seventh house. So that could be the completion of, well, of a perspective. I mean, you have a full perspective at that point on a relationship. You know whether or not you want to stay in that relationship or leave it. You could also cut off a certain like partnership professionally, even like someone you're working with. You might just have a really positive experience though with a partner at that time, because it is conjunct Jupiter pretty much. We also have Venus opposing Mars, and the Venus-Mars opposition in the third and the ninth might bring up some discord with relatives, siblings, cousins, neighbors, or disputes about travel or where to travel or how to invest in travel. But it could also be a time where you are really putting a lot of energy into like being more creative with your communication, your writing projects, focusing on investing in education as well, potentially. And so, yeah, I mean, middle of December is a big moment for Sagittarius. I mean, like you realize by that time, like what the status of your relationships are or what your relationship is. But don't forget, Saturn in the fourth, I still think a lot of Sagittarius are contending with a lot of responsibility in the with the home and the family. Then we have a Cap new moon December 30th in the sixth, or sorry, not the sixth, the second house of money, values, natural talents. A Capricorn new moon at the end of the month may close out 2024 with a new job, a new salary, a new value system, a new financial plan. A lot of Sages are kind of reconfiguring, figuring their spending, their budgeting, their financial strategy, and so on. Venus will still be in the third, squaring Uranus in the sixth. Not a bad time for collaboration with coworkers, actually, or people in your immediate community. And you may have some really fascinating connections with people in like any kind of day-to-day context. Mars will retrograde still in the ninth, so you're continuing to like it. If you're a Sag who's traveling too much in December, like that might exhaust you. Like really make sure that you're not burning out because you're traveling so much or whatever. Also, some of you though are really doubling down on your beliefs and arguing and vouching for those beliefs, or you are getting a little bit tired about some over some kind of educational pursuit. Now we have Capricorn. Capricorn, you have the Sagittarius new moon on December 1st in your 12th house of spirituality, isolation, reflection, and mental well-being, and the unconscious. So a new moon in the 12th during a Mercury retrograde is very low key. You don't want to push yourself too far there. Maybe adopt a new meditative practice, spiritual routine. Your dreams might be very interesting and informative even at that time. You're reflecting just on your spiritual beliefs. You are just taking a lot of alone time, ideally. Just taking a lot of downtime and alone time to just like reflect on like your spiritual journey, your what like gives you a sense of purpose. Some of you might reflect on like a humanitarian project you're working through. Venus will be in your first house. So relationships in theory would actually go quite well, but only if you take the time to reflect in isolation first about what you really want. Now we also have Mars in the eighth, so physical intimacy could be really powerful at that time, or you're fighting about money. You're fighting over money and having disputes about it. And we also have Mercury opposing Jupiter, so your perspective on health is really expanding. You have a really expansive perspective on health, and that is you know, maybe giving you maybe you're adopting a new belief system about how to take care of yourself holistically. Then we have a Gemini full moon December 15th in your sixth house. So this could be the completion of a work project. You reach a health milestone, a fitness milestone. Potentially you just you learn something big about health or health practices. Maybe Yeah, I mean, maybe you do transition to a totally new work stream, a new job or something. With Mars retrograde at that point, opposing Venus in the second, a lot of you are really focused on making more money, attaining a new salary, but some of you are arguing about money, arguing about possessions, arguing about values with a partner. Or, you're just really focused on getting ahead financially and putting in the work to do that. But again, avoid burnout, of course. Um, yeah, I think that Venus and Pluto in the second can be really powerful. It's just that like some of you are building greater wealth at this time, but simultaneously some of you might be arguing within like a family or a partnership about assets or inheritances or possessions or wills or something like that. But then we have a Cap new moon at the end of the year in your first house. A new moon in the first is ideally a really nice refresh and reboot. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the new moon could be really refreshing for you at the end of the year. You're starting a new, course. You're starting a new, your New Year's resolutions are taking effect. And Venus will square Uranus from the second to the fifth. So, you might have really fun, eclectic experiences with people that are kind of, yeah, indulgent. Maybe you go to a restaurant with a group of people. Like your New Year's plans should be pretty good, actually. And yeah, you could have a large dinner, or you could, have a big creative, like fun event. Um, with Saturn in the third still, squaring Jupiter in the sixth. A lot of you, though, are working really hard still. I mean, you're working really hard to either prove your skills, get a certification, pass an exam or something, or you're just gaining new skills to thrive in the workplace. But yeah, I mean, a new moon for Caps in the first house, I mean, it could entail a new job, but for Venus, with Venus square Uranus, maybe some of you are finding work that is actually more creative because you've had this Mercury retrograde reflection period in your 12th house, which is like, hey, how can I either use my spiritual gifts more in my career or like what is my greater sense of purpose and like is my current job helping me live that out? Then we have Aquarius, you have the Sag new moon, December 1st in your 11th house of communities, groups, political organizations, social media. So for Aquarius is the December 1st Sag new moon could be like setting a new tone in your friendships, in your communities, maybe in your network. But with Mercury retrograde, you're probably reconnecting with old friends. Maybe you're revisiting previous social media strategies. Maybe you are returning to a community that you left behind. Maybe you are just like rethinking your friendships generally, reflecting on what kind of friendships you actually want. With Mercury opposing Jupiter, you definitely have a great perspective on friends. Maybe you go to a concert with old friends at that time. I think that for Aquarius is early December is a great time to go to a concert with friends to reconnect with them. Um, Others might find romantic potential in a friend, but that's kind of a niche thing and unlikely. And I don't know if you'd want that. Venus will be in the 12th at that time as well. So some relationships are falling away, or you're just reflecting on them, or you're just very rarely, but maybe a past life relationship would come in, or you're just like in a bit of a behind the scenes type of relationship. Then we have a Gemini full moon, December 15th, in your fifth house of romance and creativity. And, I think that the Gemini full moon is a really, it's really nice. I mean, I think Aquarius is, I like December for you, apart from Mars in the seventh, which I'll talk about in a second. But, the Gemini full moon in the fifth, it's like if you've been working at a creative project, especially for the last 6 months, you're finishing it here. You're really proud of it. You're celebrating it. And then you also have maybe an opportunity here to go on a really nice date or something, or you suddenly realize that you want to shift your focus into creative space, or you do manifest a lot of luck and abundance in your creative work. Like maybe your creativity like really pans out and you find a lot of success with your creativity. Mars is retrograde in the seventh, though, at that time with Venus in your first. So ideally, Aquarius is you're forming really nice, powerful relationships in the begin or in the middle of December. And these relationships are, you know, maybe there's physical intimacy, maybe they're very passionate. You're almost a little bit obsessed with them. With Mars retrograde in the seventh, though, some of you are arguing with a partner, or you're letting go of a partnership. You're setting better boundaries with them, or you're just exhausted by them. But also with Venus in the first, you're changing up your look, your wardrobe, your style, and people are really attracted to you. People are really drawn to you. People are really obsessed with your style. You can almost be kind of a trendsetter at that time. So if you're looking for a new relationship as an Aquarius, December is your month, I think. And some Aquariuses might start a relationship with a friend that they haven't connected with in a while. Which again, I don't know if you actually want that. I don't know if that's a good idea for anyone, but it may happen anyways. Um, and Mars again in the seventh is kind of a sore spot though. You know, you might experience a little bit of conflict there with the people you're closest to. So just try to manage that. Yeah, I mean, I think overall it's like really powerful relationships are coming through. Then you have a Cap new moon to end the month in your 12th house. That's a time to kind of take it easy, relax, commit to a new spiritual practice or meditative practice, or commit to a new lifestyle that, creates a greater sense of well-being. So, overall, I think Aquarius says you have a pretty good month. So next we have Pisces. Pisces, you have the Sag new moon December 1st in your 10th house of career. This can help you birth a new career, transition into a new career. Maybe you become a parent in rare cases. Maybe you take on a new authority position. But with Mercury retrograde in the 10th, you're just starting probably to reflect on your career. You're starting to finish unfinished business in your career. You're reflecting on your role as a parent or manager or authority figure. Maybe you're having miscommunication with a parent or with an authority figure. With Mercury opposite Jupiter, you are again reflecting and getting perspective on how you parent, how you manage situations, how you manage your family, your home in concert with your career. Venus is in the 11th. So maybe you are connecting with friends again. You're feeling more social, though, despite maybe some challenges in your career. Mars is in the 6th. So you're feeling very motivated to exercise or do strength training. Just don't push your body too far because Mars in the 6th is more injury prone in theory. And Saturn's in your first, Neptune's in your first. Both are direct this month. So you are, taking commitment seriously. You're seeking commitment, maybe. You're seeking a long-term career, relationship. Yeah. Maybe your spirituality is, firming up or something like that. You have a new perspective on health or healthcare, even. And then we have the Gemini full moon, December 15th in your fourth house. So even there's a revelation around family, home, and property. And maybe you, relate to your family differently at that time. Maybe some of you move, or maybe some of you just have a different perspective on where you'd eventually like to live. Venus is in the 12th, opposing Mars in the 6th. So you're trying to find greater well-being in your spiritual life, your meditative practices, and create and foster a greater sense of well-being mentally, spiritually, so that you can have greater physical health. If you overtax your body, though, this could create some challenges in December. Mars retrograde in the 6th, not a great time to overstrain yourself. So make sure you have a balanced life across these channels of like mental, spiritual, physical. Don't have an affair ever, but especially in December. Venus, Pluto in the 12th. I don't know, it's kind of strange. But you may develop private sessions with someone while you're reflecting or something. You may fantasize about someone in your dreams. And I don't know. It's not like maybe you just fantasize about somebody a lot in your sleep or in your dreams. And then there's a Cap new moon, December 30th, in your 11th house, which could be a commitment to a long-term friendship, or maybe you join in on a, yeah, maybe you join a new community. Maybe you establish a new long-term relationship or friendship, I should say. Maybe you commit to a new social media approach. Venus will square Uranus. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty abstract transit, but you might experience a bit of an exciting behind the scenes relationship out of nowhere, especially with someone in your neighborhood, I guess. That's like one way to interpret it. But also a lot of creative ideas are coming in through the dream life and helping you write. So if you do creative writing as a Pisces, I like the end of December for that. But a lot of you are definitely participating in new communities with Saturn square Jupiter. Maybe you have a new philosophy on parenting or your home. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately Pisces, like it's actually a pretty big month for you. I mean, you are, I think, adopting a new perspective on your career, where you want it to go. You're setting a new vision for your career. Maybe some of you are moving, or you're just thinking differently long term about where you'd like to live or how you'd like to manage your family. And you're adopting greater balance with your health and your health strategies. So I know I talked about a lot today, started out in the middle of the afternoon and now it's dark outside, but what is December all about? It is a time to, again, slow down the pace, focus more on finishing things than starting things. Be careful in your communication, expect travel delays. Don't overdo it with travel. Like, don't travel so much that you burn out. Just watch in the news for any signs of a pathogen or virus or flu spreading. Take care of your health. Also revisit where you get information from, what media sources you take in. Um, Slow down in order to just, again, reflect on where you want things to go with your career and your relationships and so on. Focus on philosophy and values and whether or not they're aligned with people in your life. Finish up any media projects. Expect maybe some logistical challenges in like the world. Maybe, it'll be harder to access certain things. Maybe there will be bottlenecks, basically. And some legal drama in society. But ultimately, like I said at the beginning, even though there may be a restriction in the flow of goods, you might also reorganize the way that ideas flow in your mind. I mean, like December is like a total game changer in the mind. You might not see a lot of things change externally in your life, but internally, it's like you're telling yourself a different story, you're setting a different vision for the future. So thank you so much. I'm Evan Nathaniel Grimm. Remember, download the 2025 horoscopes if you haven't yet. That goes into way more detail about 2025 than I will go in with any other content. I mean, so you want to get ahead of every new and full moon, what it means for your sign, in a holistic sense, because just watching these YouTube videos every month is going to give you a very fragmented view relatively. I mean, the 2025 video covers the entire year. And also I have about 20 spots left for one-on-one readings in 2025. So if you want to talk with me one-on-one for 70 minutes, then go book a reading through the link below. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great December. Take care.